Hello and welcome back. We are four Struggling Filmmakers. My name's Emma. Joined with me once again is Noah.
Hello, everyone.
Jimmy.
Hello.
And James.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. And we are joining you with a Christmas episode. We've got two Christmas hats on. I've got my Christmas jumper on. Jimmy's in green.
Oh.
Christmas green.
So,
what do you want?
True, very true. We're going to do one of our little countdown videos where we're going to count down the top 5 Christmas films. So, I was about to say, should we get started? But any recommendations?
Oh, recommendations. Oh
yeah.
Wow, isn't it?
I watched Paris, Texas on Noah's recommendation many months ago. And yes, it is very good. It was right to go on the 80s list because that film is beautiful. It was very, very well acted. Really like the ending scene with like the one-way mirror. It's so good. Number 2, most recently The Menu came out. Me and Jimmy saw that and that was really good. Very well written, very funny. Number 3, I watched Hellraiser, the original Hellraiser, and that shit was rad. I loved it. It was really fun.
It's a staple of body horror, isn't it?
It is. I didn't expect it to be as gross as it was, but it was really gross.
Yeah, is it in the first 5 minutes when Frank pulls himself together?
Yeah, it really drops you in at the deep end, and then it goes like, oh, now how much more crazy can we make it?
I don't know why that scene in particular is not on more lists of best practical effects as well, because that is quite stunningly good looking.
Anyone else seen anything fantastical?
I saw yesterday, so this is hot off the press, with my dad. We went and saw Violent Night, which I see on Letterboxd is on a few of your watch lists.
Watching it Tuesday.
Are you? Well, it'll be interesting to see what you think. It is exactly what it says on the tin. No better or worse than it needs to be. A perfect 2.5 out of 5.
Oh.
Fair enough.
So,
Is that what you're leaving us with? A perfect 2.5?
Yeah, 2.5.
My dad was like, that was bloody brilliant, but I don't know.
I mean, I went and saw Black Adam, the cinema.
Oh yeah.
It was all right for what it was. You know, it wasn't a bad movie. It was quite good. I enjoyed it. Action, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But I mean, superhero movies are arguably somewhat becoming a bit tiresome, I think. I'm not sure what more you can do. But for what it was good. So should we jump straight into our top 5 Christmas festive films?
Yeah, spin that wheel.
Oh, spin the wheel already.
You asked for it.
We need to talk about what makes a Christmas film before we start, or do we just go straight into it?
I mean,
I feel like if it should come up in an argument, we can talk about it.
I feel like we're thinking about Die Hard and Gremlins here. We know that.
And another. There is another.
But I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory at this point.
Yeah.
Is it though?
Yeah, but I mean, if it comes up in the debate and you want to harp on someone's point to get the film off, then by all means, go at it.
I will say very quickly, and I want this on the record, so I want this in the video.
Yep, on the record.
If one specific film is not at the number 1 spot, I am retiring from the podcast.
I think I know the film you're thinking of, and I don't want to put it there just for that reason.
We'll see who gets number 1. This could be. I think this will either be a really harmonious list, or it will be the most divisive one we've done.
It's going to be the most Christmas argumenty episode. It's like family.
Oh, no.
We're one big family and board game night.
Yeah.
And on that note, shall we? All right. So this, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is for spot number
5.
What, number 5?
This kind of the best spot because you can put anything at 5. No one's going to veto at 5.
Oh.
Hey!
Ooh.
Emma got 5.
All right.
Yeah, baby.
This is for number 4.
4's a rubbish one. Oh no!
Oh, yeah! James!
All right. I'll take it.
Well done.
I'd rather have 2 than 3, but we'll see.
Number 3 goes to
Ooh, Jimmy.
Hey.
Jimmy.
It's for me.
Can I get number 2?
And
Well,
number
okay.
2 goes to.
Who will be?
Oh,
No bags.
It is indeed.
welcome back. We are going to be doing number 1 at the end once everyone's had their go. So just to remind, number 2 will be Noah, number 3 will be Jimmy, number 4 will be James, and I'll be number 5. So easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
Okay, so should we get stuck straight in?
Yeah, get stuck in at the bottom.
For God's sake.
All right, so number 5 is an interesting one because I don't really know what you guys are going to pick, but I know there's a lot of films out there that are very technically good and old school, so maybe I'll put something more modern-y on there, I guess.
Whatever you pick at number 5 and whatever comes above, you're setting the benchmark here, Emma.
Yeah. These are the 5 best. Not just, the 5th one will be fine because it's the lowest. These are the 5 best.
So I'm going to put something that is a go-to feel-good sort of movie on this list. I am going to put a 2003 film. I'm going to put Elf at number 5.
Oh, we're starting with Elf at number 5. Wow.
So, I mean, at the moment, it's my only choice. I think it's festive, it's funny. It's not a serious movie. So, and I think there's a couple more serious movies that deserve to be a bit higher up and that have more, as I said, better technical aspects. But I think Elf definitely deserves somewhere. I don't think it should be at the top. So number 5 seems to fit all right with it. Pretty much does what it says on the tin. For anyone who doesn't know, basically it follows this elf called Buddy, played by Will Ferrell, and he is somehow ended up in Santa's sack and been transported to the North Pole, grows up in the North Pole, and then he's like, oh, I'm going to go find my dad because he's on the naughty list. And so he goes to New York, finds his dad, and it's all funny and weird, and he's not really a real human, somehow ends up finding a woman, and then they make an elf baby.
Do they make an elf
Is
baby?
that what happens?
They've got a child at the end, yeah.
Mate, I've not seen this film in a while. I do not remember them having a kid at the end.
It's
yeah,
a
like
very
it's a normal baby, but on the daddy elf
It wasn't.
arms.
Oh, okay. I'm assuming it's like a final scene. It's like, oh, this is what
Yeah.
happened after. We have a
It's
kid.
it's a poignant time to pick this film with the, I think it's fairly recent passing of James Caan, who is his real dad, Elf's real dad, Buddy the Elf's
Buddy.
father. Sonny Corleone is the father of Will Ferrell, confirmed.
Who played Ed Asner as well? He died recently, semi-recently. He played Santa.
Oh,
Yeah, that was last. Yeah, he died last year, but still very sad.
Oh,
It's Jon Favreau, isn't it? This
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't know how to say his last name. I didn't want to butcher it, so I just
One
put
the
John
only.
someone.
It's amazing. He's in it as well, briefly, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the doctor, I think.
Is he?
Yeah.
It's got to be one of his earlier films. Obviously, now he's doing The Mandalorian, and
Yeah,
a
he
few years
really-
ago,
Went nice success.
it probably launched his career. I imagine it was hugely commercially successful.
Yeah.
I think to get back to the discussion, is anyone going to veto this first before otherwise?
I mean, I'd like to talk about it just with you guys, just in general. But
Yeah,
do
that's
we? Do we think that it's like number 5 worthy? Because I know Elf is all right. It's good. I think it's a little oversaturated. Even when it comes out once a year at Christmas, I feel people are like, "Oh, Elf is my favorite. I've got to love Elf. Got to watch Will Ferrell screaming. Oh, he's great."
Yeah, but
No.
I
it's
feel like
playing
there's
at the cinema, James. Is that not a hallmark of like a great film? If every year you can have a cinema
like all
release,
films play at the cinema.
We've got Asda
yeah, but not
adverts.
continuously.
At Christmas, most of them do.
No, Elf.
Well, I don't know what
Oh.
cinemas you're going to. But
Popularity doesn't equate to quality. Let's just say
we're
that.
not talking about quality.
Oh.
We're talking about festiveness.
Can we just flash on the
Yeah.
screen?
It's also quality as well. You can't just say, "Oh, a film's Christmassy," and that
Newsletter, newsletter. James hates Christmas.
James hates Christmas. Flash it on screen.
I mean, you are coming across like a little Christmas gremlin. That's all I'm
I mean,
saying.
But it's a crowd pleaser, and
is.
It's number 5.
and James, we've got to have something that makes people happy, because that's what Christmas is about.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Non-Grinch.
I'm not saying there's not.
And it's a comedy, which probably not going to be on this list at all if we don't include a healthy.
That's what I thought. I thought I'd add something with a little bit of a twist.
I think it's an absolute modern classic. I would have had this probably a little bit higher. To be fair.
What, out of 5?
Yeah, I think it's
no higher than 5 for
Interesting
me.
choice.
It could go as high as a 3, I reckon. It's got so many memorable scene after memorable scene. No, I honestly think it's a modern classic. I think Buddy the Elf is an iconic character of cinema. Genuinely, I think there's a very strong divide between Christmas films pre-2000 and Christmas films probably post-2000, and I think for me, we'll see this with our selections in a bit. I think the general quality of post-2000s Christmas films is pretty shockingly awful, and I think this is a rare gem that stands out from that. So I think 5's a great spot for it.
Anyone want to say anything more on it? Grinch, what? James, do you want to be any more of a Grinch?
James
Nope.
the Grinch.
Nah, I feel like the film has such a staying power that even if I have some reservations about it, I'm not like fully against it being at number 5. I'm like a bit like, there are other films that I would prefer, but if people like it, people like it. I like it, but it's just not my favorite.
What would you have put at number 5? Actually, we do that at the end, don't we?
Do you think it's a bit shallow, James?
I feel like,
it
does have good elements to it, but as a film in of itself, it's kind of a one-trick pony in a way. Like, I know, oh man, big offense, but like Will Ferrell does a thing and he does it well, and he doesn't really change as much throughout the course of the film. He is.
It's not him that needs to change.
From beginning to end.
His dad, and his dad does change.
Yeah, I know, but like he could change too.
But why?
Because that's what films is for.
No.
No. Okay, fine. I'll give up then. Whatever. I'm not even vetoing it, so it's fine.
Okay, so number 5, we're sticking with Elf.
Yeah.
Yay!
That's one for the kids, though.
One for the kids. Okay, so number 4, James.
James. Number 4, I am here to choose a film that I doubt none of you would have picked. And I'm going to tell you now, I haven't picked Gremlins and I haven't picked Die Hard. So you can quell those feelings for now. What I will say is this film is something that I recommended on the podcast previously. It was around last year I did, or earlier this year. I can't remember when we record these things. But it is a very artistically beautiful film. It has a lot of great themes, great animation, and it is one from World Cinema. I'm picking Tokyo Godfathers by Satoshi Kon. Yeah.
Interesting.
So it is a Christmas film. It follows 3 homeless people who find a baby whilst dumpster diving. And they want to get it back to its mother. And the film deals with a lot of themes of family and a lot of things of coincidence as well. Like you watch the film and you look at some of the storytelling, and if it happened to any other style of film, it would feel a bit off because it's like, oh, why did that happen? And then it explains it later on. And you're like, oh, that feels like a bit contrived. But the film like prides itself on the theme of coincidence and in a way Christmas miracles. And because of that, it leads to some very like weird, funny, crazy situations that you would not expect it to. The characters are all very layered and nuanced. Each one, you can see how they ended up in this particular situation. And it's like they're effortlessly expressive with the way that they're drawn and animated.
It's anime style, right?
Yes, it is. It is an anime film, and I am not big on like anime in terms of like series and stuff. Like it doesn't really interest me. But like when it's used in a way which is like stunning to look at, which this film is, it's insane. Because I know a lot of people just think, oh, really good animation from Japan. They think Ghibli, but this isn't even Ghibli. It's its own thing, and it's its own very distinct animation style that's like really realistic as well. It gets really, really dark at points because it doesn't like shy away from like violence or cruelty. One of the main characters in the film is transgender, and they deal with that quite a lot, and her struggle, and it's done very, very well. And most importantly, it's set at Christmas, and it does feel very Christmassy because, you know, thematically it works quite well, and it's in like a snow-swept city. There's loads of Christmas lights going on. There's lots of themes of families enjoying themselves, and then this sort of like ragtag family just coming together at Christmas time, trying to do something good and ending up in some crazy, kooky situations. So, yeah, it's good. Really, really good.
From an interesting point of view, like, because it's set in Tokyo, right?
Yes, Tokyo.
Does like the Tokyo Christmas you see in this film, does it like differ from like what a westernized kind of Christmas would look like?
Yeah, definitely. Because in a way, we're not even seeing it from like a Tokyo point of view. We're seeing it from the point of view of someone who's homeless. And the way these characters go throughout the night, trying to get this baby back, and then they end up in like a 7-Eleven at like 3 a.m, and the guy just tells them to get out. And they're like sleeping in a diner because they have nowhere else to go. It's like all the hustle and bustle of Tokyo is very busy, and no one like bats an eye. There's a scene where one of the main characters, Jin, just gets beaten up because he's homeless. Like there's a lot of cruelty in this film, which is juxtaposed with some like a real sense of like tenderness and kindness. And I feel like it adds a sense of, this film is described as like magical realism, because there's moments where it's like, oh wow, how is that supposed to happen? And then it's revealed later it's done in a very like matter-of-fact way. But yeah, hopefully that answers that question.
Why was there a baby in the bin?
Why was there a baby in? You have to watch the film and find out.
I was going to say, did you watch it with subtitles or did you watch it dubbed?
I watched it with subtitles, but they have recently done a dub of it, and apparently that is also very good. So if you did want to watch it dubbed, I don't think you would have lose a lot of the message that gets across, because I know occasionally dubs can do that, but apparently this one was very good.
Do you know what's funny about it as well? It's also 2003.
Oh, is it really? No way.
So
great year for Christmas films.
Wow, it would appear so far. Do you think this deserves the 4th spot?
I do.
I have yet not seen it, but it has been one that I wanted to watch for quite some time now.
It's the season. You can try it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, we'll have to watch it.
It's quite niche.
This year.
All I'm thinking, you know, top 4, and it's quite a niche one.
I feel like if there's a chance for people to, if this recommendation like convinces people to go out and watch it, that would be really good, because I feel like even though it's not a very well-known film, people are missing out on it because it is so niche, and because it is in Japanese, and because it is like an animated film. People wouldn't like associate that with like the classic Christmas film, because everyone keeps on going back to the ones they know. But this one has so much to it that is great and like quality level, that I think it definitely should be on here, even at this level, on number 4.
Shall I say my famous line about anime?
Go on, Jim.
Go on then.
Well, funnily enough, I've not seen this film because I've never seen any anime. But one of these days, well, I'm telling you, I will. And maybe that'd be one story. What I will say, it's I thought it'd be interesting to see if we come across any films on this list that aren't all just a bundle of laughs, that do have dark and, you know, serious moments in them. And I bet there are people out there who'd be like, well, that's not very Christmassy. And I'm like, well, you know, Christmas isn't nice for everyone, is it?
Everyone has a very different experience, don't they?
Yeah, and I think it's good when Christmas films include a bit of that. I think it grounds it and brings it to the real world a bit. I think it's quite quintessential for a Christmas film to have a moment like that, and I don't think it makes it any less Christmassy. So I'm not going to veto this. I think it's good to have some world cinema on the list. I think we have to have at least one film that's a bit out there on here. So,
funny enough, it's actually Jimmy's argument that's made me not want to veto it. Also, I mean, he's right.
Yeah.
We should represent kind of everybody's experience, and so I'm going to keep it. So it's up to
I'm
me.
not just right, Emma. I'm dead right.
Dead right.
I'm back, baby.
I have no issues with it being on the list either.
Okay, so staying at number 4, we've got Tokyo. Is it Godfathers or Godfathers? I was going to say Grandfathers then.
Tokyo Grenade.
A very non-controversial video so far.
I know. Where's the
I'm
draw?
sure it's soon to change, no doubt.
Well, here comes the man himself at number 3. Jimmy, over to you.
Oh, hello. 3's a really rough spot and really hard to pick because so far none of mine have been on here. And if I don't put my number 3, that probably won't be on here too. But having no control over 2 and potentially no control over 1, when you're in the 3 spot, you kind of just want to get one of your top tier films in there, don't you? So I'm going to put what actually would have been my number 2 pick in here. So we're going to go to a different decade. We're going to get out 2003.
Finally.
And we're going to go to, I think it's the early 90s. And having just said all that, well, I think this pertains to this film. There are some moments of seriousness in this film too. But it is generally quite a light-hearted, family-friendly romp. And I think it's a very unique and surprisingly powerful in places take on a Charles Dickens classic. It is, of course, at number 3, A Muppet's Christmas Carol.
Oh.
Which I watched for probably the 10th time a week or 2 ago, and you could not wipe the smile off my face throughout the whole film. I think it's
number 3.
A number 3, yeah.
A Muppet's Christmas Carol.
And that's the least controversial thing of the 4 I was thinking of putting at number 3. Go on, Jamo.
I'll say a very brief note. It was my number 1.
Was it? I knew you loved this film. I thought it'd be somewhere on your list. I thought it might be a 3 or a 4. Well, that's interesting. I'll just quickly go over the plot a little bit, but the plot is it's quite a faithful adaptation in many respects of the Christmas Carol story. I think for many as well, it's probably one of the most well-known retellings of it, which tells you something about the quality. But Ebenezer Scrooge, played brilliantly by the one, the only Michael Caine, whose tongue is nowhere near his cheek in this film. He is playing it as though, in a quote he said, when Brian Henson got on board, he said, "I'm going to play this like I'm doing Royal Shakespeare. I'm going to play this completely seriously." And he does, and he's brilliant at it. But this one fateful night, he gets visited by 3 spirits, 3 ghosts, basically, that take him through his Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas future. And gradually, he kind of comes to realise what type of person he is, and he decides to be a better person, basically, by the end of the film. Well, what do you say about this film? It's laugh out loud funny throughout. There's moments that genuinely... It never ceases to fail me with the Muppets, how they can pull on your heartstrings with like little plushy puppets. But the scene when he's like, "Tell me, will Tiny Tim survive?"
Not Tiny Tim.
It's got some really beautiful moments in it. It's a really well told story. The music, the soundtrack's so catchy as well. I sometimes go around the house humming "We're Marley and Marley." I don't know what more I can say about this film. I think it's the first main release after Jim Henson died, and I think Brian Henson did a wonderful job, a wonderful tribute to his father with it. And I think it's a great film.
I can definitely back you up there, Jimmy. I have all those points and more. If it doesn't come up for me, what I love about this version of A Christmas Carol is when you expect like the Muppets Christmas Carol, you expect it's like, oh, all the Muppets are going to be playing themselves, but Each Muppet is playing a character in the story of A Christmas Carol, and every character is somehow perfectly cast for who they are in that story. And that is like insane to me that they've done that to such a degree where it's just like, oh yeah, I can definitely see Kermit the Frog as Bob Cratchit. I can definitely see like Fozzie Bear as Fozzie Wig. That's perfect. Apparently they had 280 individual puppets that they used for this particular film, all of them unique and different from one another. They use like miniatures, large scale sets, green screen, like animatronic. You know, the Ghost of Christmas Present's like this really big, massive guy. Like his head is like an animatronic piece that they put on top and control, and then they voice from off screen as well. But multi-layered sets as well, because obviously all the Muppets are very short, and then they need people to do the Muppets underneath. So you've got them there, the puppets there, and then Michael Caine on top on like a little plank of wood. It's just insane how much effort they put into a film like this, and how much it sucks that's like craft like this does not get made in films as much anymore.
And it's just had a 30th anniversary re-release where they've added a new.
Also, very much like Elf, it gets re-released in the cinema every year. It gets a film in concert at the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra Hall in London.
Oh, really?
It does.
They've just added a scene back into it for the 30th anniversary release, because it cuts very abruptly in the theatrical version that I watched, where after Ghost of Christmas Past visits and he's speaking to the woman he was in love with, but it didn't work out. It just kind of abruptly cuts and they move on. It still tells it really well, but apparently there was a song there that when the Disney executives watched it, they said it was so unbelievably sad that they didn't want it in there, but they finally put it back in now, which Brian Henson always wanted. So
well, that's lovely. No, do you have anything to say before I go in?
Come on, don't be the
Sorry.
Do you have anything to say?
So it's been a while since I've seen it, truth be told. I mean, it is quite fun from what I remember as a kid, and I imagine it's still probably quite fun as a 25-year-old boy. But you know,
I do know, Noah. I know. I watched your face. You watched mine. We know where this is going.
See, here's the deal. Before either of you pull the bullet on this one, the fact that you have chosen Elf and I restrained my veto on that.
I'm sorry, but
the Muppets Christmas Carol, which has 10 times the effort put into it in terms of its filmmaking.
I'm going to stop you there, and I'm just going to go out and veto. Vetoed.
Oh wow! Okay.
That means I have to pick another film. Let's go from a film that really puts some magic, it puts you in some magical place. Let's bring things down to earth a bit then. I'm just deciding between two. It's very hard. Okay. A worthy success then. I'll do my preamble. So we're going to jump back another decade to the 1980s. I think it's only fair then, if we're going to replace this with something, we've got to pick another film that equally has the craft that James was talking about. You know, that's what's missing. I think I drew the line with post 2000, pre 2000 films earlier, and I think maybe you could pinpoint that that's the craft that's missing. So let's go to the best year of films ever, 1984, for a magical adventure with one of the best characters that has ever come out of cinema, and let's join Gizmo in Gremlins by Joe Dante for 1984.
I'll take it. I'll take that.
What happens in Gremlins? I think we've spoken about Gremlins on this channel at least once before, if not a few times. But a dad brings home to his son a little creature called Gizmo, which is a Mogwai, it's called. And he's got these rules, these famous rules, you know, don't get them wet, don't feed them after midnight, and don't put them in the sun because they melt. And of course, young Billy, played by James, help me out here, is it Zach Galligan?
Yes.
Who also crops up in other films from about the same era. He breaks all these rules, Gizmo gets wet, and they feed him after midnight, and the town is attacked by gremlins. Oh, Gremlins. I guess similarly in a way to Muppet Christmas Carol. It's a wonderfully great good time. You'll be laughing throughout. But it puts a very, very cheeky, tongue-in-cheek gruesome twist on the holiday season. I think if you're looking for something a bit different for Christmas, I'm going to make my partner watch it in the next week or so. It's a great one that I think a lot of people might not go to for Christmas as a result, but it is as much a Christmas movie as maybe not Muppet Christmas Carol, but a lot of Christmas films out there. So.
Yeah.
I will actually support you on this decision. I think it's a better decision. Just because at first when you said Gremlins, I was a bit like, oh, here we go. But then I actually thought about it, and it's like, actually, it is quite a fun Christmas film. So, yeah.
Sweet.
What's up with the Muppets, though? That's very backwards thinking.
I just don't know. I think, so for me, with the Muppets thing, I thought that I just really like the original A Christmas Carol. So that's probably where most of mine came from, because I was like, oh, it's just such a good film as it is. I back you for it being a good film, but I just didn't think it was 3 on the list good film.
Do we all love Gremlins then?
I do.
Yeah, Gremlins and the Muppets Christmas Carol are not on my list, to be honest. So to have both such high on the list is quite iffy for me personally. But I'm willing to let this slide because I do enjoy Gremlins. It is fun, and it's got that horror element, which again is something different that needs to be added to the list, I think, because we can't all just have your bog standard Christmas dramas. We need a bit of variety. So we've got our comedy, we've got our horror. Why don't we change it up a bit?
It still has that kind of Spielbergian family coming together at Christmas magic about it as well. So it definitely, like I said, it does feel like a Christmas film. The opening, not quite the opening bit, just after the opening bit, where it plays "Baby Please Come Home," is I think a great Christmas atmosphere, mood setter.
It is. And of course, if once you bring that up, I have to bring in my favourite factoid about that, which is the town from Gremlins is also Hill Valley from Back to the Future.
Yes, and
your favourite film, obviously.
Immediately.
And watching How the Grinch Stole Christmas again, it's Whoville as well.
Is it?
Yeah,
I did not know that. That's brilliant.
It's all the same.
This is the only Gremlins film, because there's only 2 that actually uses the concept in a way which is both funny and scary, whereas the second one is just like straight comedy all the way through. And I think it works as well. But the mixture of comedy, horror, and Christmas is a nice little recipe for success with Gremlins.
We all in agreement? Number 3 sliding in to replace the Muppets Christmas Carol. Gremlins.
As much as that hurts, I'll take it because it's Gremlins.
Yeah.
Sorry. Number 2, we're coming over to you, Noah.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
So,
Hello.
I've been given a number 2. It's very important, number 2, but not as important as number 1. But nevertheless, a lot of weight on my shoulders here. What do I pick? Where do I go from here? Now it's quite difficult because there's 3 biggies that I want to have, but it's just a question of how do I play it. Let's just get out the way. Let's get the elephant in the room out the way. 1988, John McTiernan, Die Hard.
And number 2.
At number 2, yeah.
So we are going to go for the argument right now. Is Die Hard a Christmas film?
And yes, it is, Emma. Thank you.
Well, let's vote. Hands up who thinks it is.
I want a little bit of background first, because why would it be a Christmas film and why wouldn't it? Let's just for those who wouldn't know.
When we all think of like the classic Christmas tale, we tend to think of Charles Dickens, Christmas. Is it a Christmas Carol?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. And sort of the whole premise of that is you look back on your past and you realize, themes of like redemption. How can you, like change the way you believe in life? How can you change your life for the future? Well, John McClane has a similar issue. He has the issue of he and his wife, they're not on the best terms. And he comes to LA to make things up with her. And, all things go wrong, really, in a number of ways in the film. And at the end of the film, he redeems himself, doesn't he? And he can now look ahead to the future and see that, life can be better for me now. Like I've made my life better for those around me as well, which is kind of like the story of A Christmas Carol.
So you're saying
Gotta-
Right?
it's the parallel themes.
Yeah.
I like that.
You've got to repair the nuclear family, haven't you? in
Always,
1980s
always.
cinema. or well, Violet Night's still doing this in 2022, and it doesn't.
It'll always be a theme.
And there's more obvious ones than that. Obviously, you know, it's set at Christmas. It's got Let It Snow playing at the end. His wife's called Holly.
We've basically got to have the wider argument, at least briefly, then now of what makes a Christmas film. Because in my mind, I can't see how Die Hard is any less Christmassy than Gremlins. Really,
Yeah.
you know,
It's
they're both
exact
set at
argument.
Christmas.
I mean, those are the two examples, really, aren't they? The of the debate.
yeah. Well, there is another,
The
but
third one, yeah.
I don't think it's going to be here, sadly.
Well, give
But
it a mention now. Go on.
It won't be at the number one spot. I had Black Christmas on my list.
Yeah, I did too.
Did you?
I didn't.
I
I
was
thought
nearly
somebody-
going to go for it because I knew no one would want it and they would veto it. So
yeah, I did it. I did it in place of Gremlins.
I
But
thought it would be. Oh, I thought it would get vetoed straight away. So I've just gone straight to Die Hard.
The proto Halloween.
indeed,
It is, yeah.
Same year as Texas Chainsaw, but it's another one of those
Is it?
films.
I didn't know that.
It is, yeah. There, you know, I guess a lot of people define a Christmas film, even Gremlins. You know, it has to be, I don't know, family friendly, I guess, or it has to have that. It's almost tonal, isn't it? You know, a Christmas film. It's not really a genre, is it? A Christmas film could be a comedy. We've got a comedy on this list. We've got an anime. We've got a horror, really. You know, Christmas isn't so much. It's almost like sci-fi, isn't it? It's not so much a genre as a setting.
Well, if you think about it, it's because the whole point of a Christmas film is you've got all this time where schools are closed, you're off for work, and people are together. And the whole idea of a Christmas film is let's put something on. So by that very nature, you've got all sorts of people around that wouldn't necessarily be sat around together. So it's got to have some sort of thing of like appropriateness, obviously, but also something that everyone can relate to. So I think Noah did really well by not just saying, well, it's set around Christmas, by actually like digging into the themes. And I think that's quite an important thing of what makes a Christmas film.
And another funny point you can make is Christmas, you know, it's all about a deeply religious Christian time. And if John McClane isn't seen as some sort of like godlike figure here, I don't know. You know, he single-handedly takes down Alan Rickman and the terrorists. Well, you know, better man than that. Well, with the help of all his friends, what's he called, Al?
Al, yeah.
So Christmassy.
Do you want to hear another point that we can relate John McClane to Christmas?
Yeah.
He so in the 80s, I mean, we all know some of the big sort of stars, the action stars. You had your Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and along comes Bruce Willis, who sort of just looked like working class bloke, didn't he? He just looked like everyday person.
It's not
and that's what Christmas is about, really. It's about everyday people getting the time to be themselves, to take back, you know, get away from life. And he represents that, really. I mean, I know he does mental things, but he's just a bloke in a difficult situation.
It does seem to be that turning point in you're dead right, Noah. Well, this worshipping of the hard bodies of 80s action cinema to this shift in the very late 90s the very late 80s and the early 90s, and that to a more relatable looking protagonist like Tom Hanks starts to get very big, doesn't he? Known for being an average Joe kind of fella, and yeah, John McClane. You're right. The stuff he does is pretty spectacular, but he doesn't have this unrealistic, I guess, you know, physical presence that like Schwarzenegger and Stallone and Peeps, Lou Ferrigno has. So.
I think we're all in agreement then that it's pretty happy that it's a Christmas film. And
again, a bit of variety. It's an action film as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah,
So
we've
we've
covered
got
a lot of
horror,
bases
comedy,
here.
action, all mixed with Christmas.
I'm going to veto it anyway. So
I love how you still
Oh.
have the cards, or did you just write that?
I wrote that earlier. Yeah.
Oh, are you really? Are you really?
Yeah. I like Die Hard. I think it's a Christmas
After all
film.
that,
I was
I
gonna say
just
you
decided-
gave all the spiel of like, yeah, you're dead
No,
right.
it's definitely a Christmas film. It's a great film. I thought somebody else would veto it. You can't knock Muppets Christmas Carol off for this.
Well, we didn't. We knocked it off for Gremlins.
It's not a top 5 Christmas film.
Okay, fine. So it's happened. So Noah, pick again.
Sorry, no, get your other 2 on there.
Poor Noah.
This has really screwed me over a bit. Right, why don't we? Hang on, let me get the wiki up.
The Christmas movies wiki.
IMDb top 250 Christmas movies list.
Well, I'm gonna have to go. I think I'm gonna go for it. It's half an hour long, but it's got to be The Snowman.
Oh my gosh, that was on my list.
What, with Alan Jones?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so. Yeah, the
1982
original.
animation.
Yeah.
As in, I'm walking in the air.
That's correct, yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, Jimmy doesn't look happy, but you
What?
backed me into this corner, mate.
To be
I'm
fair,
not
yeah,
unhappy.
Jimmy, this is you.
I've not watched it since I was about 8.
But can you remember the nostalgia? Like, you know the song, like the nostalgia. Does that not like give you something?
Palpable.
I absolutely hated it as a child.
Oh,
Oh,
no nostalgia here then.
Because I didn't like anything with music in it, with the possible exception of Muppets Christmas Carol and Tarzan.
Hang on,
and
what? I could
it's-
change it. Am I allowed to change?
No, only if you
You
self
can veto yourself if you don't. If you want to
Yeah.
change your mind, but as it's here, I'll state my piece on The Snowman.
Yeah.
It's very interesting that we've picked a short film because there's a lot of films which are a lot longer than this, have a lot more like depth and character work to them. But this very short film, very artistically impressive, does a lot with no dialogue.
Yep.
And I mentioned when Emma was talking about it, it has a palpable nostalgia to it. I think it's just because from the way it was drawn, and I think it was
Raymond
based off of
Briggs,
a
isn't
book
it?
as well. Yeah, Raymond Briggs. That it just gives me a Christmassy feel like the entire time. Is it like a
Yeah,
very
you just
British
feel-
thing? Do like Americans watch this?
I doubt it. I think it's like
It just makes.
it's always on the BBC.
Oh, sorry, Emma.
It's always on the old
busy watching Die
BBC.
Hard, the Americans.
I think this is a great choice for number 2. I think it's appropriately sat. I think as James has said, like it does so much with so little, and it really tells like a beautiful story. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just a staple of Christmas, isn't it? And like once Channel 4 gets this on, then you're
You know we're on the countdown, yeah.
Whether it's
Get an
Christmas Eve
advent.
or Boxing Day.
And what's not to love about David Bowie's introduction to it?
Little
Come
kids
on.
and
He
snowman.
sits there in his armchair with his beautiful hair and his beautiful face, and he's like, "It's the snowman." Well, that wasn't a very good impression. But
It's my word.
Welcome to the
Yeah.
Snowman.
It's like Bowie's in the room.
yeah, he's back from the dead.
Bowie's back.
I think I've convinced myself, even though I sort of half-heartedly said it. But
I think it's
I mean, it's a
beautiful.
good guess. It's a good pick.
I agree.
I completely overlooked it, but like after you
I
mentioned
was
it, I'm like,
more
you know
keen on my previous pick, but that got vetoed. So
Sorry. Well, no, why am I apologising? It was Jimmy.
Well, I'm sorry. I would have rather Die Hard than this probably, but no,
Oh.
fair enough. I've got no power. I have no power here. I am Saruman of this situation.
No,
you
you're
like
not.
Alan Rickman?
You're not going to veto yourself, correct?
No, of course
James, you're not going to veto.
Now I'm holding mine on for the number
So,
one.
number 2, Die Hard's knocked off, although has confirmed as a Christmas film, but The Snowman is in to replace. So,
This is
ladies and
crazy.
gentlemen, boys and girls, are we ready for number 1? The person doing the number 1 pick is
Oh,
going
come
to
on,
be
please.
James.
I've never had a number one spot before. This is fun.
Oh, well, fair enough. You deserve it. If anyone deserves it.
A Christmas miracle for me.
For
God.
All right, no pressure.
No
Well, James,
pressure.
You have
Number
to
one.
pick either your personal pick or the greatest Christmas film of all time. So no pressure. Yeah.
I mean, we all know what the greatest Christmas film of all time is, and James is about to reveal it.
We've done many screen drafts, and I've always been the bridesmaid, never the bride, when it comes to the number one spots.
So are you going to milk this, basically?
Oh yes, because I can't think of anything. But yeah, okay, so I'm just going to be completely straight. I have no idea what to pick for number one. If I wanted to go with my heart, I would pick Muppets Christmas Carol, but my brain says that's a dumb idea because then you just waste your spot. So I'm going to try. My number one is A Muppet's Christmas Carol.
Oh.
Okay.
Do you have any qualms with that, Noah?
Is it because? Well, what if I don't? Then that just ends the video.
That's it.
Then that works
Episode
very
over.
well for me and Jimbo.
Thanks for watching, everyone. We've been for Struggling Filmmakers.
Merry Christmas.
You can't possibly end a video like that, can we?
No, obviously I'm not going to just end it by saying, oh yeah, it's this, bye. But it is my number one film for a reason. It is the epitome of Christmas to me. And even though there are aspects on it that may not work for everyone, I know Noah doesn't think it should have the highest quality at the number one spot or even at the number three. I know Emma prefers the original Christmas Carol story as it is, but what I love about A Muppet's Christmas Carol is it makes a very well-known and common Christmas story that's been done again and again and again, whether you're doing it the classic Charles Dickens way, or if you're bringing Bill Murray into it, if you're doing it with Disney characters, whatever, it does it in a wholly original way, which also is somehow so withholden to the source material. It has like two ideas of like, oh, these are the original ideas that we have with the Muppets and all the crazy stuff, and this is the respect we have for Charles Dickens and his original story, and they mesh it together in a way which is near perfect.
So Noah, what are you going to do?
I suppose I may as well veto it.
Okay, it's
Yeah,
been
that's
vetoed.
fine.
So-
At least we had one chance at resurrection.
You did.
Hello.
So back to the drawing board then.
Really good explanation, James.
It was
No.
good. It was passionate, but you still have to pick again.
This film list has gone off the rails in a way I did not expect. But now we're just going to do something completely off the wall.
Oh, he's angry.
And you guys can't do anything about it. We're going not based on Christmassiness, even though this film is set at Christmas and does have many Christmas elements to it. We're basing it out of quality, film quality. And whilst this may not be my favorite from this director, it is leagues above many films that get released nowadays. Many films are even on this list, just from the sheer direction, the unsettling horror of it all, and acting performances that are damn impressive. So I'm picking Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut.
What?
Yep,
For a Christmas film?
or a Christmas film.
Is it a Christmas film?
Uh-huh.
James,
What?
Yes.
I think I love you.
Oh, I love you too, Noah. Mwah.
Can you just
I am ecstatic about that.
At least I've pleased someone. I'm happy about that.
No,
I
I
did
don't
not
mind.
even consider it. I know it is kind of a Christmas film, but I just didn't really consider
just
it because I just didn't think anyone would allow it.
Where do we begin with Eyes Wide Shut? So Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman are kind of in sort of like a loveless marriage. Like they kind of base their whole relationship around sex, and it doesn't really work at the time. And then through happenstance, Tom Cruise stumbles upon this masquerade. How would you even describe the party that they're having? It's like
It's a masquerade ball, isn't it?
it's like a masquerade ball, but it's also an orgy, and it's also something very sinister and unexplained.
Hmm.
He
Yeah.
basically sees something that he was not supposed to see, and after that, the whole film is shrouded in a level of eeriness because he feels like he's being watched and followed by these people. And I feel like why I've picked this film, because even though it's very un-Christmassy, it's again that juxtaposition of the Christmas setting, which is supposed to be very joyous and happy, snow around New York and everything, which is in like stark contrast to Elf, which is also snow in New York. That's like all very happy and cheerful. But Eyes Wide Shut paints it in such like a dark and sinister lens. And like Tom Cruise is he's very good in this film because in many ways he wears his own kind of mask. And he's kind of like beholden to all these like faceless people that are just making his life very paranoid and unsettling. The humans in this film feel the most human that he's done, because it's set in more modern day 90s New York, and that's probably the last film he did before he passed away. Before I let it hit the floor, I'll say that the music in this film is also very, very messed up. The scene at the masquerade, like party ball, whatever you want to call it, it's horrifying. It like gets into under your skin, and then you're like, this like really like almost like religious chanting that they do, and it almost sounds like inhuman. It's weird, but yeah. Number one, Eyes Wide Shut.
I mean, there's no argument. It's a good film. It's a Kubrick film, so it's obviously a good film. It's quite dark for number one.
Oh yeah.
It's quite a dark list we've got.
Ending this on the darkest film out of the bunch.
There's a lot of rumours about it, aren't there? About how it's an unfinished film because Kubrick died quite early early into like the editing process, so they don't know how much. They don't know what his vision was really. Then, I guess.
Well,
I think it's quite clear.
It says he was 6 days after he handed the final cut in to producers. So.
Okay.
And there is a lot of rumours about the producers having to remove quite a lot from the film because it might have exposed them in some way.
But it is very, very good.
I'm going to be watching it this festive season.
Yay!
It makes me feel a bit queasy in a good way.
No.
Number one. So, James, talk us through why it's number one on this list.
You want to know the truth?
Yeah.
I said I wanted to cause a bit of chaos, and Eyes Wide Shut is a very, very good film. It's a Kubrick film, mind you. The only Kubrick Christmas film, unless you count The Shining, which is also kind of snowy. But
tenuous.
I feel like Christmas films kind of get a bad rap in terms of quality. Jimmy mentioned this specifically, where every film after like the 2000s kind of like drifted off into like just kind of poor quality, just very like run of the mill, very standard. Like very rarely do you get a film that gets released, wide release in a cinema, mind you, that is of like a decent quality. Most of the time it's just like streaming films because it's, you know, easy to put out into the wild, and if people don't like it, it'll just get sucked into the like void of content. It will never be seen again.
Well, one point you can sort of make of the film to Christmas. A lot of it is about power, money, wealth, you know, and consumerism. It's kind of what Christmas is, isn't it?
In many ways. It shows the darker side of humanity, and also, in a way, the darker side of Christmas. Dun, dun, dun.
I think as well, this is how I'll let myself sleep at night with this being number one on the list. I think one of the big shifts you see potentially is that so many Christmas films now are just opportunistic cash grabs, aren't they, from whoever? And I'm okay with this film being at number one because, like any film that should be at number one on this list, and I think, to be fair, most of these aren't, if in fact all of them probably aren't, cash grabs. It's definitely not a cash grab, is it? It's a passion project. You know, it's a story Kubrick wanted to tell to the world that has this, going off what you guys have said, this Christmas link. So the one I wanted to be at number one also had that, and this has that. So all is well with the world.
I guess that completes our list.
Very bizarre list.
Very bizarre list. Shall we just recap? So we started at number 5 with me and Elf. No problems there. Although I feel like there was some regret later in this episode. Number 4, we moseyed on over to James, who gave us the gift of Tokyo Godfathers. Ooh. Number 3, we had Jimmy with A Muppet's Christmas Carol, which got vetoed by myself and turned into Gremlins. Much better. Number 2, we had Noah, who put forward the Christmas controversy that is Die Hard, which got vetoed and turned into the Christmas nostalgia that is The Snowman. And then we've just had James topping us off with, he brought back A Muppet's Christmas Carol, which then got vetoed by Noah, ending us on a rather bleak note of Eyes Wide Shut. And that's our Christmas list.
The fact we're not even going to talk about It's a Wonderful Life is such a crime.
It is.
Yeah, the epitome of Christmas.
I'll just say one thing, right?
Yep.
I think you get a few moments in the world of cinema history where the right film came along at exactly the right time. And I think coming out in 1946, is it 6 or 7? It's one or the other. I think it's 46.
It's 1946.
Just after the horror that was World War II, you got out of all that, I think largely because of all that pain and all that horrible suffering, you get this one absolute gem of a film that comes up that just says, it's okay to struggle, it's okay to be sad, particularly at Christmas. This world's not about things, it's about people. It's just a nice film, isn't it?
So that was our lovely list of our 5 best Christmas films. Let us know if you agree or disagree in the comments. We've been 4 Struggling Filmmakers, and
Merry Christmas!
Christmas.
That'll do. James, what's the R in the top left corner?
That's what I thought. I assume it's whoever's made the
The background.
No, it's not.
what is
Unless
it?
Is it from Tokyo Godfather?
Oh, don't tell me it's actually there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been there the whole time.
What is it?
I just downloaded it from Google Images. I didn't realise I had an R in the fucking corner.
What would you like me to
Did
do
you not
about it?
realise that was there?
No.
Merry fucking Christmas.